Hello there, it's Jan here from JB Crafts. Thank you for joining me today. I hope your day's going well. I am back with my next sketch challenge today. So yeah, how did we end up in March? How is it March already? So this is sketch number 8 for March 2025. If you're just joining me on the channel today, there are several previous ones of these. I launched this towards the end of last summer and it's been going really well. You seem to be enjoying the idea of having a sketch as a prompt to start your crafting. However you want to interpret it is absolutely fine. I'll show you what I've done with this one today. These are my own sketches that I've created from the designs that I've made. So yeah, feel free to sort of take a screenshot and use these for your own crafting. Absolutely fine. So I've gone for a DL style today, and I always make these in true size. So this one is an 8 by 4. DL, if you're not familiar with that term, it just means double length. All right, so it's 4 inches wide. It is double that in height, so 4 by 8. And if I bring in the style that I've made today, we've gone for something a little bit different today. As I say, just the shape changes everything, but this could be incorporated, you know, into a 6 by 4, a 5 by 7. If you guys are over in the States, it could easily be an A2 design. So don't think it has to be that tall length. It's just what I fancied today and trying to throw in a little bit of variation. So this is my design and this is how I've interpreted the sketch. I've got my at least one matte layer in the back. So this is the same size as the sketch. You can see there, if I lay it over the top, we've got true to size. And I always put at least one layer in. I've actually got a couple of matte layers. I've got my blue layer and then my focus layer on top of that. And then I've completed it with, I put a circle in here, but just using part of it today, and I'll go through what I've done with this and how, you know, you can incorporate this. We've got a banner in here. We've got, this is going to be the focal point that I've actually interpreted with my stamp, and then we've got a sentiment in here. These are optional. This was just on my stamp set and I added them on mine, so I've popped them on the actual layout here, but you know, you could omit these. They could be gems, they could be little butterflies, whatever you want, little flowers, or you don't have to put them in at all. This is the main part of the sketch. So we've got the matte layer, the circle, the banner, the focal point, and the sentiment. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. So this is what I designed. This is my my sample for today. So we've got a little bit of colouring, stamping and colouring to do today, just a little bit. I've got some text in the back here, simple sentiment, and then I've used an embossing folder in the back there. I don't know whether you can pick that up on the camera. Just a script embossing folder to go with what I've got here. Really, really nice. And then fairly simple sentiment and just a little hint to the front with that text and the 3 hearts again, just to match it up to what we've got going on the front there. So let's get into that design and I'll show you how I put this one together. So a few components to get started with, and then we'll do some stamping and some colouring. So my card, I've cut myself from a piece of A4 cardstock. This is a piece of 8 by 8. And I've just scored it down the centre at 4 inches to make my DL size card. So yeah, 8 inches tall by 4 inches wide. That is a fairly standard size for the DL. But again, as I say, it just stands for double the length. So as long as your height is double the width, you know, you can make a skinny one. You can make entirely up to you. And then I've got a couple of matte layers. So the first one, I've just chosen a really nice sort of mid-tone blue for this one, and this is 1/4 inch smaller at 7 3/4 by 3 3/4. So that's going to go straight onto our card. And then I've just used a piece of plain smooth white cardstock, and I've just come down 1/8 of an inch this time. I like those staggered borders. I'm not keen on everything being regimental, which is quite weird actually, when those of you that know me know how my OCD kicks in, but this is one of the things that I can actually cope with. It doesn't have to be, you know, standard sizes. So just 1/8 there to 7 5/8 by 3 5/8, and this is going to sit on top of here. Now this one, you could actually place a circle die or a die cut over the top of your panel. So for example, if you cut out your circle, you could actually pop your circle over the panel here and then cut the edge to match so that you've just got part of that circle. I actually chose to use my circle die and cut it out of this panel. So I've just placed it just off center. It's not quite half of it. I wanted a bit more of it in the design than was out of it. And I've cut this out, passed it through my die cutting machine so that we've got that detail here, which is going to create this lovely piece here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is pass that panel through my embossing machine with the folder. So this is just a general script folder. I've got quite a few of these. This is an old Crafter's Companion one. It was a collection called Letters from the Heart, and yeah, just all over script. Now my piece of card's actually a little bit longer, so I'm just going to show you the trick for that if you haven't seen that before. We'll pop those to one side, leave the sketch there. So I'm actually going to pop this in the folder and do the top half of it. Okay, so I'm just going to line this up with the text that's inside there, and we'll pass this through the first run through the machine. So my machine is actually behind me, as a lot of you know, but I'm just going to pop this in here, and I need my two cutting plates. Mine, I just happen to have a clear one and a white one. And what I'm going to do is make sure that the top of the card's in here, but I'm going to make sure that the bottom piece is actually overhanging the edge of my folder. So when I put this plate on, I've got the top enclosed between the plates, but the bottom piece here is sticking out, and this means I'm not going to get a harsh line across here from the embossing folder. And then I'm just going to flip round here and pop this through my machine just behind me. I use my Gemini, so you can just hear that in the background there. And then we've got our partial embossing there. So if you look now, I hope you can see this on the white. We've got that lovely embossed panel there, but it stops here and you don't have the line marking from the edge of the folder. Now the next problem I had was, right, well, I can't get the rest of it in here because obviously the hinge on the top, so I'm actually going to spin it round. I don't think anybody would notice that this text is upside down. It is just a background, and it's not really a legible text anyway. So what I'm going to do is flip it round, pop it back in, so choose where you want it to go in the folder there, like so. And this time I am going to leave it where my previous line of embossing went to, which is about here. I'm going to leave that part of the folder sticking out of the edge this time, so that we're going to get sort of like that join, but without the join, if you know what I mean. Let me just pop this through and I'll show you what I mean. So that's going to pass through the machine again. And when we take this out now, let's just get rid of the plates there and pop this out. You can see we've got that seamless join here now. I hope you can see that on the camera there. Yes, as I say, this is actually upside down, but I don't think anybody's actually going to notice that. It's illegible anyway, and it is just a background. So that's the first part complete. And then these are actually going to go together. We'll get these stuck down now. We've got those 3 layers, and I'm going to bring in my all-purpose glue now, and we'll get those stuck down onto the card, and then we can do a little bit of stamping and colouring. So I am going to add this one with some of my glue to the blue panel. I haven't added any ink to this one today. I wanted quite a clean look on it, but if you wanted to add ink over this to bring out the text, you could, by all means. But I wanted that nice crisp look on here today. So I'm going to get that one laid down. As I say, it is only a very small border. And just get that laid down onto the blue there. You can see just round the edge there, you've got a tiny, tiny 1/16 of an inch of the blue, but you've got that concentrated piece here in the edge of it. So again, we're going to go underneath here, pop a little bit of glue underneath, and then get that one secured onto the card front. So we've got a 1/4 of an inch border now, so you can see how they're just slightly offset, and it just gives it that little bit of interest and that bit of blue peeking through with the focus here. So you can see we've got our background layer and we've got our first component here in that collection at the bottom. So I'll leave that to dry, and then we're going to do a little bit of stamping and colouring. So I'm just going to pop that over to one side to dry, and we will bring in my stamping platform. So I've got my Misty here, and I've got a piece of Nina cardstock. Now I like to, this is my chosen cardstock when I'm using the alcohol markers. So I'm going to pop this in here, and I've got my stamp at the ready, and I've got a little set of teacups. Now this has come from, it's quite a large set of stamps, and again this is Crafter's Companion, and it was from their layout collection that they did, and you got a whole host of stamps, and I just thought, you know, this is a really nice icon. But again, you know, you could have used any of these. The birdhouse would have looked nice, the cake stand or the cupcake, the butterfly, any of these would have looked okay. And again, have a rummage through the stash. You know the ethos of the channel, have a look at what you've got. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as what I'm using here. The hearts are also from that stamp set. I just saw those on here and thought actually they're a really nice little addition, and I've already got those stamped out. So I'm just going to do the actual cups here, and I'm going to use an alcohol marker friendly ink because I'm going to colour very sort of minimal colouring, again just a hint of colour with my alcohol markers, and then we're going to fussy cut this and use it as the main focal point on the design. So a bit of ink on there, a bit of pressure to transfer that onto the card. Just give that ink time to transfer, and we've got our stamped image at the ready. So mine just get a little wipe over and they're good to go. So we'll bring this out of here, pop that to one side. Then I need a piece of scrap. We'll just grab that piece to rest on because I'm going to use my alcohol markers. And like I said, I am going to use some sort of minimal colouring here. So I've just chosen, I've got some grey. So this one's ice grey. I've got a couple of shades of blue, and I've got a very pale sort of ivory peach tone here. So I'm going to start with the grey. I've also got my blender pen, which is a really old one, but it still does me the job here. And I'm going to start with that grey, and I just want the lightest shade of the ice grey. And all I want is a suggestion on here that there is a little bit of shading. I want the cups to sort of remain white. So all I'm going to do is add a little bit of the grey on those points where the design has actually got some shading, and then I'm going to bring in my blender and just smudge the edge of that so that it blends into the white seamlessly without any harsh edges, like so. And then we're going to do the same on the second cup. So really simple colouring today, nothing too definite. I just want that suggestion that there's some depth at the edge of these cups, that they're not just flat, and you'll be amazed how it just sort of brings them to life. And just by blending out that edge, it takes away any harsh lines that those pens may leave. You can see the difference now between these two and the flat one at the bottom. So again, I'm just coming down the edges. I'm using those lines that are already in the stamps there as my guide. Want a little bit on the edge of the handles, and then just blend that out with that blender there. So a little tiny bit, And then remember, with alcohol inks, it does take time for that alcohol to evaporate, but you can just see the difference now. If you look at the saucer at the bottom compared to the cups, it just gives them some substance. So again, I'm going to add a little bit around where the flower is, because that would create some shadow on both sides. And then I'm going to just bring a little bit in the bottom of the saucer. And again, just blend out that edge just to encourage it to soften it there. And it just blends in seamlessly so that there's no sort of real definition between where the grey starts and the white joins it. So that's the grey. Then I'm going to use a bit of the blue. So I've got and again, they're a mixture of brush markers and bullet nibs, purely because that's what I've got in my stash. There's no reason for that. The bullet nib started at TB2, which is True Blue 2. This one starts at number 1, which is really pale. And I wanted that pale colour in the background. It's virtually sort of not even noticeable, but I'm going to do all the spots on the cups just to get some alcohol in there, because I didn't want them to be solid blue. And then what I'm going to do is use the first one off this one, which is number 2, which will bring much more depth of colour. And I'm just going to go around the bottom edge of those spots there and just add in that suggestion of the blue. So that's going to pick up that lovely blue cardstock that we used for our matte layer. So just that little bit, and then instead of the blender this time, I'm going to go back in with that light one and just blur that outside line there, tiny little bit in there. Okay, and then we'll come back to that blue and just darken that up in a second. I'm also going to use, rather than introducing another colour, I'm going to use the blue on the leaves of the flower as well. I'll say I didn't want to introduce another colour. So the same process, just that little suggestion of the blue at the base of the leaves, like so. And then again, using this one just to soften the edge on that darker shade. So that's that one done. I can move those two. And then I am just going to go over this again, just to darken it a bit more right in the very bottom. I'm not even going to blend it out this time. I'm just adding that next blue just in that bottom sort of curve. So you've almost got like 3 different shades you can see there. So that's the blue finished. And then I've got a very pale, this is actually a fair skin blend, but it comes up a little bit sort of peachy. And you'll know from, if any of you followed my colour theory videos, that orange and blue are opposite colours on the colour wheel, so they are complementary. So this sort of very pale peachy tone was a good contrast. I just wanted something that was a contrast to the blue. And then I'm going to take it to the deeper one, which is still not mega dark, because as I say, they are meant to be skin tones, and just add a little bit of depth. Not much, I just want a hint of colour in there. And that's it, that's as much as I'm going to do. So you can see there we've got those details in there. And then I'm going to take my little scissors and just fussy cut round the edge of that. But I've actually done that ahead of time so that we didn't have to sit and just watch me cut it out. So you can see there we've got exactly the same. I've just left a very, very, very thin edge around the outside. And this is going to be our main embellishment, and I've got some foam, pop-up foam on the back of there ready to use. So we'll pop those to one side, and we've got our embellishment ready. I've also created that banner that's going to go across the middle. So we did our background. This is the piece that's going to go across here. I am going to use my embellishment here for that section, and then we're going to add a little sentiment to there as well. So this one was created with some plain white cardstock, and then these are actually stickers that have got the text on, and I've just put 2 or 3 of them across the white card and then matted it onto a little bit of that blue. And this is going to sit now and sort of bisect that circle at the back there. So I've got a couple of lines of tape on the back of here ready. Again, use glue of your choice. I just happen to have my double-sided tape handy when I was doing this, and I'm going to pop this not quite halfway up, so I want a bit more of this showing at the top than at the bottom, so I'm going to go about there. I can just double check that with my ruler and make sure that it's running straight. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And then get that one stuck down on there. And then we're going to bring this one over the top here. So I've got my little foam pads on the back. We're just going to release the paper off the back of here. And then I am going to add a little bit of glue. And I always say this, it's not because I don't trust the foam pads. A, it's for sort of longevity, and B, I am going on to the stickers have a shiny surface. So because it's not straight onto cardstock, I'm just going to pop a little dab of my acrylic glue on the back of those, and it will help them adhere to that shiny surface. So this one's going to go pretty much almost central between the card. Yeah, so that there's a little bit of the banner showing here, and then we've got the remainder of it at this side. Give that a chance to stick. So you can see now we've got our semicircle cut out of the card. Like I said, this could be a piece laid over the top if you don't want to cut it from the card. We've got our banner, we've got our focal image, and then I have just stamped a little sentiment that says hello friend, and I've got this at the ready. And I've put tape on the back of this, but I've also put a little bit of foam at one end because it's going to hang over the edge of here. So I'm just going to take the liner off the foam tape, and again I'm going to put a little bit of glue because we're going still onto that shiny surface, just on the foam tape there. And then this one is just going to sit and nestle nicely sort of in here, and that is my sentiment element as we've got here. And then lastly for this one, I did have those 3 little hearts, and as I say, these were on the stamp set. I've just stamped these out and cut them with my scissors, and we're just going to place these on. I just thought it was a nice finish for, you know, the detail on here. So we're just going to have these as if we're loving our cuppa, and we've got some little hearts just flowing out of the top. So a little bit on there. I'm just going to stagger them at different angles. And then that last one, little tiny one on the bottom of the top of the trio, and then this one's going to come back across sort of this way here. All right, so you can see we've got that sketch up and running. So really simple. This doesn't have to be, you know, if you're not a stamper or you're not particularly fond of colouring, this could be, you know, a cutout, it could be a sticker, it could be a bit of decoupage. It doesn't have to be stamped and coloured. It is just how you interpret that focal point, and it can be absolutely anything. It can be any theme. You know, you may want to do something, you know, if I just pick something random like an underwater theme, this could be a seahorse, you know, just something really random like that. So yeah, we've got all those images. We've got the background layer, we've got the circle, the banner, the focal point, and the sentiment. And of course, the only thing that I added to my original sample, you know me by now, is just a few little gems on there. 3 at the top, at the bottom, 3 at the top, just to offset right through the design and taking your eye through the sentiment and everything. So we've got the 2 panels there, pretty much the same. Pop that one to one side, and then just inside, as I say, nice and simple, I've cut my inside layer, I've stamped in there, and then I've used those 3 hearts and just a little touch of that tape just to add a link to the front of the card. So that's my sketch for today, number 8. So if you would like to join in and have a go, you can find me over on Facebook at JB Crafts, and some of you upload, I'll put a post on for this one once the video's gone live, and a lot of you upload underneath there and show me how you've interpreted the sketch. So yeah, just an idea, a starting point. You could use parts of this and then add your own, sort of translation to it. It is entirely up to you. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this one today, sketch number 8 for the sketch challenge, and I'd love to see what you're doing over there at Facebook. But if you've enjoyed the video, consider giving it a thumbs up for me. It does help tremendously with the channel. And if you are just coming across me today, please consider subscribing and joining us here at JB Crafts, and I'll be back very soon with another tutorial for you. So enjoy the rest of your day now, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.